Hello, everyone. Welcome to LabOPEX Live. I'm glad I made it. I got stuck in the plane, but I'm here. If you're here, come on in. Tell us who you are and where you're coming in from. And today we have a very interesting episode. And it's interesting because I don't have a guest, but I'm hoping that we're going to have great engagement from the audience. So if you're here, just tell us who you are, where you're coming in from, and I'm really depending on you for your engagement, for your feedback. And today we're talking about the challenges that we're having in this current landscape in medical labs. And really, I'm looking for engagement. So I've hosted a lot of really brilliant guests on LabOPEX Live, and we've had a lot of discussions about some of these challenges. And I've learned a lot over the last several months about some of these challenges that we're having in the lab. And I thought that I would just put some things together. It's like collating ideas and have us discussing it today. And for you who probably never come on to this show, I'm Lona Small. I'm the founder. I'm a coach and trainer at LabOPEX Training and Consulting. I'm a quality and process improvement specialist at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. And I love to have these discussions on lab operational excellence. And so today, we're talking about how do we deal with these current challenges. Jonathan Taylor, hello, nice having you. For others who are coming in, just tell us who you are, where you're coming in from, because I'm hoping to have some great discussion tonight. So, are you concerned with some of these changes that we're having right now with so many things that's happening in the lab? Are you concerned that medical lab may not be the same as it is in the future? Are you concerned about the future of lab medicine the way I am concerned? And that's why we want to have this conversation about challenges that we're having in lab medicine. And as I said, we have had some brilliant guests on this show. And we talk a lot about lack of recognition of medical lab professional, increase in the workload, and decrease in the number of skilled professionals. And that's really challenging at this time with increased workload. And I just saw a report from ASCP that they did a whole report on the challenges when it comes to the workforce. So years ago, not even long ago, I would have these discussions with leadership. And during these discussions, I'll usually, come up with ideas as somebody who is in process improvement. Hi, Mark. Nice having you. I think people should invest on someone who can help those unlicensed to get their license. Oh, we're coming up with ideas already. Great, great. And that's what we're going to talk about. A lot of these challenges, including licensure, is one of those. So I remember years ago, hi, Christopher. Years ago, when I would be in leadership meetings, I would start thinking as a process improvement person, oh, we need to start looking at the way our workflow, we need to be more efficient. Even before we had these challenges with staffing, I thought I was looking ahead and I was talking about workflow and efficiency and everything. I remember years ago, I was from the day when we did like a test on a bench. That's what they call it, bench. There was like a bilirubin bench. There would be a specific test on a whole bench, and you'd be running like 20 in a rack at a time. One person for the whole day would just be running bilirubin or creatinine. And when you think of how things has changed today, so say, for instance, in that lab, you'd probably have 8 people in a chemistry lab running different benches. And at the end of the day, they'll probably end up doing 20 panels for the whole day with all the work that they had to put in. And when things changed and it went to automation, you probably would have, so you probably would have the same 8 people with 2 maybe different automated instrument running probably about 200 tests. So move from maybe about 20 panels, when I say 200 panels, about 20 panels to 200, but you had the same amount of people. And, I'd have that conversation about efficiency. But now we don't have that problem. Now we have sometimes only 2 people running a whole lab with probably, say, 800 panels per day. So now the idea of people you look at like, oh, we can improve the workflow and improve things may not be those same solutions that we thought that we could use to solve our current problem today. And, that was, me like, oh, I'm looking ahead, let's improve this. But now that we're here, we realize that those small tweaks, and it reminds me of my guest last week, Jeremy Schubert. He had a really, really great show, and he was talking about absorptive capacity. And that is a way to look out in the landscape and see what's going on and react to it. Because the way we did things before, that's not the way we're going to do things today. And I'm going to say some quick hi. Christopher, thanks for stopping by. Anthony, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you could be part of the conversation. Stephen, thanks for stopping by. Hello, thank you so much for this forum. Hopefully I can get some feedback from you guys today, because this is going to be those conversations where it's not a one-way street. And, basically I need your input. So yeah, the way we thought that we could solve a lot of our problems definitely is not the way we'll do that today. So nowadays, basically, I'm hearing from a lot of my guests about we're unrecognized, we're underpaid, we have increased volume, we can't it's just so many things, especially when it comes to our values. A lot of people can't manage the volume that they have, and we're not being reimbursed for those volumes. So how do we solve these problems today? And today I'm going to talk about innovation. And innovation, it's almost like I'm building on last week's topic, because innovation is not just tweaking. We have to start thinking in a way that is so big, because we can't just say, okay, we're going to fix our workflow or we're going to be more efficient. That will not solve the current problem. And there's a lot of discussion, like somebody, Mark, said something about licensure. A lot of those discussions that we've had for all these years, unfortunate to say, that's not going to fix our current problem today. The things that we have always done, or the way we have always done things, will not fix the current challenge that we have today. And I use that example of how, the benches used to be, we used to have to run like maybe 8 people just to run 20 panels doing things manually and automated. Things are really, really changing, and we have to change the way we think. And that's why I want to have this discussion about innovation, and I need your input. So actually, what is innovation? Innovation is actually moving away from the old and moving towards something new. Something really new, not just tweaking. So it's I'm going to read. Innovation is something new and effective that's introduced to the market that fulfills a need to the customer through our product and services and add value. So there are certain things, certain way in which we can innovate. Um, One way I am thinking, like as a process, to push against the status quo. So a lot of things that we see that people have always been doing it this way. We've been having these discussions for years. We've been saying that quote that 70% of the decisions that's made by providers or for decisions made for medical purposes comes from the lab. And we could say that until we're blue. And if other people don't understand what that means, it doesn't make a difference. We could advocate until we're blue. And if they don't see, people don't see value, it's not going to help. So we have to figure out another way in which we're going to solve our challenges. And Lori says, I'm wondering if you can fill us in on what was mentioned at the previous meeting regarding support in litigation, regarding lab support with regards to our staffing shortage. Litigation. I don't remember. I said, I'm not sure. Maybe Lori could help me a little bit more, but I'm not sure about the litigation. I mentioned previous meeting. So the last meeting, we spoke about absorptive capacity, and that was Jeremy Schubert. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a different way today. That is, how do we respond to changes in our environment? And Lori, you could probably clarify that a little bit for me in case I'm getting your question, if I'm not understanding your question. Mark is saying training is part of quality assurance. We really have to invest in all kinds of preparation. Great, and that's where I'm going to come in with why this forum is so important. So the first thing is to push against the status quo. That means we need to do things totally different. We cannot, if you're going to lead when it's uncertainty, when it's a lot of change, when it's chaotic, we have to really push against the status quo. We have to do something totally different than what we used to do. And it's like when you think about a baby that's born and the clothes that you have, say for instance, there's a onesie. I'm seeing our environment as always growing. Things are always changing. But are we adjusting to those changes? And the reason why I'm using a baby is always growing. And we have to always grow. So the baby is like this, and the environment, right? And the baby has on this onesie. For people who may not know, it's a full suit that they use for babies. And the baby is growing. What if somehow we don't adjust the kind of clothing that we use for the baby? The baby is basically stifling. And that's how I see the lab, as that onesie that has to be changing constantly. The baby is like the environment. We have to look to see what's happening in our environment and make changes to these environments. I know a lot of people are very resistant. They're saying this has always worked for us. But the problem is that the environment has not always been the same. Things has not always been the same, so it had worked in a different environment. So we have to change the way we're doing things. So training is a part of quality assurance. We need to invest in that. And that's so true. Lori's saying I'm noticing compliance positions opening up in every hospital, which is important, very important. I'm wondering if cross-training will need to be re-implemented because we simply don't have enough staff. great ideas, and I'm going to talk about ideation and ideas. Higher salaries and advanced degrees with more opportunities for those in nursing, physical therapy, and pharmacy. The shortage of lab professionals started decades ago. This is today's reality. And that's true. A lot of times we have to start looking ahead. So many times we're so focused on our current challenges that we don't see what's happening ahead of us and making those changes. Many find change uncomfortable, which is so true. So, how do we innovate? I talk about pushing against the status quo, making sure that we don't do things the way we have always done it. And even if it's uncomfortable, we have to have leaders. We have to have some leaders who are not afraid to push against. Even in our professional associations, if you're leaders in our professional associations and you find that things we're using the same solutions that we've been using 20 years ago and we are still fighting, although that's not working, if you're a leader in professional association, we need to stand up against the status quo and start coming up with innovative ideas. And if we don't do that, like I'm saying, a baby that's growing have to the clothing has to adjust. People who don't grow will die. We cannot afford to suffocate. We cannot afford to stifle. We can't afford to die. And if we really love this profession, we may be willing to change or innovate or morph, but we have to be willing to stand up to the status quo. So that's one thing. Two, look for opportunities to improve. And I see a lot of great ideas that are coming up. Look for opportunities to improve. And when look for opportunities to improve, you get those opportunities from your staff. You're getting opportunities from outside. You're getting opportunities, but make sure that you're willing to look for opportunities for improvement. Right now, these are some great ideas. But a very important thing when it comes to innovation is collaboration. Collaborate for new ideas. And that's what we're doing right now. That's what when we get different guests on the show with different ideas, it's great to be open to new ideas. So when we're collaborating for new ideas, we're looking from outside, not just the same ideas that we have inside the lab, but we're looking outside. We're looking for different industries. So go to other conferences. Don't just go to lab conferences. Go to other conferences. If you're in quality assurance, if you're in education, and there's another education conference outside of healthcare or outside of the lab, maybe a nursing conference. If you're in quality, you can go to a lean conference or a quality improvement conference somewhere else where you can get ideas. So look for ideas in other industries. Another thing, look for ideas in other labs. And these are ideas. We just got that one. Many find change uncomfortable, and Ollie Bryan is saying, medical lab science is a very dynamic field of medicine. Every day we meet new methodologies, and because of that, we lab scientists should also have a flexible way of thinking. And that's this whole thing of collaborating for new ideas, different industries, different labs. Sometimes just you're in a lab and you go visit other labs. Like recently we've been doing like going around and visiting other labs. Some people may think, okay, I'm in a small community hospital. I can't learn anything much from an academic institution because I can't apply it. But the thing about ideation or getting ideas is that when you go to other places, you may not use it the way that used in another place, but it will trigger ideas. So one idea trigger other ideas. These discussions, I've learned so much from having guests on the show, from having engagement in the audience, especially that licensure. A lot of people are against licensure. And when I had Angela on the show, it opened up such a new thoughts and ideas to me, because we're talking about we need to be recognized. We need to be valued. However, we are kind of fighting against setting up a standard in which people will recognize us. And so just having those discussions really triggered something for me about licensure. So collaborating for ideas is so important. So you can collaborate for ideas even within the lab, getting your staff to come up with new ideas, having regular meetings, and just having brainstorming sessions to come up with ideas. And a lot of times it's, of course, you're getting ideas, it should not stop there. So usually you get ideas, then you kind of synthesize these different ideas to come up with something, and then you have to implement. So that's the whole idea of innovation. And I've been doing a series about LabOPEX leaders. And I spoke about the traits of LabOPEX leaders that are lab operational excellence leaders. So far, I've done 3 traits. Collaborative is 1. Have a vision. 2. What was the next one? Now we're talking about innovative. So let's hear what Georgia said. I attend an HR conference and educate them about lab professionals. A lot of the time, recruiters do not know what they're hiring for or how lab professionals have transferable skills into other areas of the hospital. And I love that, because it's really a give and take. When we're in ideation session, we are all learning from each other. So there's so much that you can learn outside of the lab, from educators, from HR people, that you can use within the lab. And there's so much that they learn from you. But when we stay within that same circle, there's no growth that's going to happen, no new ideas. And I really believe that for the solution for lab right now is going to be a totally different transformation in order for us to survive this. And a lot of people, it may be hard for people even to envision, but it so much playing out in so many ways. Because, of course, when we talk about the challenges with even think of the taxi industry, they kept going and going. They thought that, oh, Uber is coming, that's their thing, it's not going to affect us. But they weren't thinking ahead about the demographic, how people want to be served. They continue doing the things the way they've always done it. Before you know it, Uber and Lyft took over. We hardly use a lot of taxi driver is either they have to move to Uber or Lyft, or they die. And so that's why I'm like this voice. And I don't know if I have other people joining me to say we have to innovate. We have to do things differently. We have to start coming up with ideas in order to do things differently. So a lot of things that we have always done, when I think about it, we advocate to, we're saying, well, it's good to educate people about our value, which is always good. However, we have to demonstrate value too, in a visible way. So we have to change the way we do things, the way we advocate. We should continue to advocate, but we have to change the way we advocate. 2, fit the way we do things even in the lab in terms of how we serve our patients. It's probably going to change. Maybe in terms of the amount of people to get the work done, we may not have the amount of, we more than likely will not have people are retiring. We will not have the number of people that we have always had. So we have to figure out another way in which we do things. We've been having a lot of discussion on my leadership team when it comes to how we're going to change the way we do things. And this is not going to happen with one idea or one person. We have to collaborate for these ideas. So how do we actually collaborate for ideas? And some ways in which we can collaborate is through mastermind. Brainstorming, get your people together or get a group of leaders together and brainstorm. People who are in professional organizations, set up brainstorming sessions, set up mastermind, set up brain dumping sessions. That's so important to do in order to come up with these solutions. And I know a lot of people, they're saying, well, the same thing. This is how we have always done it. But we have to be willing at this point to look at what's his name last week talk about BlackBerry, who thought that they were the number one phone and will never go away. BlackBerry went away. Look at Kodak. Kodak thought they were number one and they would never go away. And when digital came, they stuck to film and they went away. Think of, we just mentioned the taxi. We think of Kodak. There was another group that I think when Netflix was coming, you had Blockbuster. People used to go and get their Blockbuster movies. And Blockbuster thought that we have so many customers, we'll never go away. And Netflix came about, and I actually heard that they got an opportunity to invest in Netflix and they turned it down because they were so big. So think about that as a lab industry, and I invite you to come together. I'm willing to participate, but we need to come up with collaborative ideation where we can come together to figure out solutions to our current challenges. And Lori's saying, I know we're giving more tasks to lab assistants, so we have started that. So whatever idea, and I think that's probably where we're going to have to go to. We were thinking of having, some people call them clinical clinical lab assistants. No, not lab assistants, they're nurse assistants. We're thinking of asking them to collect blood because they're actually training more CNAs to assist nurses. And we're thinking of that. So if we can offload some of the work, because we're not going to have staffing. But a lot of times it's not even just human resources, but we're probably going to have to change a lot of our processes. The way we actually, maybe some things that used to be done in the lab, going to probably have to be done near patients testing, and improve some of those technology. So some people want to hold on to the lab the way we've always known it, but maybe a lot of things are going to be done close to patients in homes. We're talking about ACOs where they're having clinics that are not associated with a hospital, where they're supported by in homes. So a lot of those ideas we have to think about when we look at what's happening with ACOs at a lab. We need to study that and see how we can fit into those different models, because the models of the lab will change. So that's just a thought tonight for you to start thinking that we have to be innovative, we have to collaborate for ideas, and we have to push against the status quo, or else we'll die. And so I'm inviting you to be part of some of the discussion where we can have ideation. I'm inviting you in your professional association to do these brainstorming, to do things like masterminds, to come up with ideas, and not just ideas, to move ideas into implementation. So if you know of any groups that are working on mind mapping, brainstorming, mastermind, join those groups and be a leader for change. And a lot of times you need to be able to lead change whenever things are uncertain, to be a leader for change and a solution, and not just someone that's panicking and unsure. So that's my challenge to you today. I was sitting by myself, no guests, and I just thought that we will have this discussion. Next week, we'll have Dennis Strand that's going to join us next week in this discussion. I know it's going to be really exciting. So next week, we'll have Dennis. So Angela is saying, where and when Labs has taken a seat at the table in administration and industry and government and media and public to give input and feedback, the visibility and value of lab medicine in healthcare becomes better understood and known, as well as recognized and appreciated. Unfortunately, not taking place in enough areas by enough professionals with enough support. And yes, Angela, we need these discussions. I don't know if you came on earlier, but I was talking about when you came on the show. That was such a very needed discussion. When you came on and what you were talking about licensure, it's so important for us to come together to have these discussions, to have ideation, because we cannot continue the way we have always done things. The ideas that we had 20 years ago cannot solve our current challenges. And until we come together to have these discussions, the way you've come on the show, the way so many guests have come on the show to have discussions, to have ideation, and come up with a different way of doing things to solve our current challenges, because our current challenges today is totally different from what it was even 3 years ago. Because some of the solutions that I had 3 years ago that I thought I was looking ahead can't even solve the problem that we're having today. And I was bringing up these solutions thinking, look, we need to start looking this way. So we have to really look ahead and don't be blindsided like everybody else, like the Blackberries, the Kodak, and everybody else. So yes, as I say, I invite you all on a Thursday, and eventually I may come up with a formal way in which we can come together to collaborate. I'm getting ready to start a group of lab leaders, LabOPEX leader community. And I think we not only need to come up with ideas, but implementation of solutions, and bring these solutions to our professional associations, and also encourage that in our professional association. So that's all I had to say today. Hopefully that's something that will have you thinking, or if you haven't been thinking about that before, and have these discussions. If you're part of a leadership team, or if you're a team member, to have these discussions in your lab, that you cannot continue to do things the way you have always done it. I really enjoy engaging with you on Thursdays. So share this out if you think that others will benefit from it, and have a great Thursday.